in 2011 by Archbishop Charles Chaput. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us to see the humanity and the dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dan. With that, I will call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Monday, October 27th, 2014 Washougal City Council meeting. Our first order of business this evening, we've got one item that's a little bit out of order from normal. Is Agenda Bill 75-14, a resolution amending the City Council Rules of Procedure, Sections 3.1 for the chairperson and adding a new Section 10 for a student representative. Dave?
Thank you, Mayor. Council, before you is a resolution that amends your rules of procedure in two places. The first is in section, chronologically, in Section 3.1, clarifies the order of succession for chairing council meetings, and it ensures that there's a more specific and comprehensive order for that succession than is currently in the rule. Currently, the rule indicates that in the absence of the mayor and the mayor pro tem, that the council will elect a chair for that meeting. And what this change will do is indicate that a council member will chair in order of seniority of the remaining council members. So it takes care of it all the way through the entire council and doesn't require the council to elect a chair on the spot to run a meeting. So that's Section 3.1, pretty straightforward change there. And then Section 10 is a new section, and this is establishing our new program for having a student representative. As you know, this would establish that program. A Washougal High School student would participate with you on the council as an ad hoc or ex officio member. And in order for that to be implemented, your rules must be amended to provide for that. So Section 10 does that. It also points to guidelines. And since this is a new program, we have some guidelines, and you reviewed those in workshop. We are proposing that those guidelines not be a part of your council rules, but that they be a standalone document that you approve. That way, if we need to make adjustments to the guidelines, we can bring those to the council without having to do a resolution to change your rules, but you would just act on the guidelines, but you would maintain the ability to keep your guidelines. So that's just to be efficient with it. So the recommended action this evening is to read the resolution by title only, and then there's two actions after that. Pass and post the resolution in the usual manner, and approve the student representative guidelines. And that is listed for you under recommended action on the agenda bill if that can serve as a guide for you.
And before we get started, Council, let's make sure the record shows that we have 5 council members present in chambers at the moment. Council members Boger and Freeman are absent this evening. So, Council, your deliberations on Agenda Bill 75-14.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we read the resolution by title only.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
A resolution amending the City Council Rules of Procedure.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass and post the resolution in the usual manner. And just for information, I will be making a motion that we approve the student representative guidelines as a separate motion.
Second?
I've got a motion and a second to pass and post the resolution in the usual manner. Any council discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the student representative guidelines.
Second?
I've got a motion and a second to approve the student representative guidelines. Any council discussions on that item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And with that, Paige, would you meet me up front? Maybe go over here. There we go. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Paige Moore,
I, Paige Moore,
do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States
do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States
and of the state of Washington,
and of the state of Washington,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and will, to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability,
and will, to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability,
truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially
truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially
perform the duties of the office of City of Washougal Student Representative to the City Council
perform the duties of the office of City of Washougal Student Representative to the City Council
in and for Clark County, Washington,
in and for Clark County, Washington,
as such duties are prescribed by law,
as such duties are prescribed by law,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Welcome. Awesome. That's for you to keep. That one we can throw away. Yeah, for this evening, until we figure out which way everybody's gonna go. We have a seat. Thank you, council. Just so that everybody's aware, we will have Paige with us until the end of the school year, at which time we should have the school administration have selected the next student for the next year, which will go from July through June as well. So they'll be on a little bit different calendar than the rest of us are, but that's the way we've got it set for the time being. Paige, welcome. Now, just so you know, that microphone, when the light is red, as it's supposed to be, it's on. When it's not, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay. With that, would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Rose, could you call the roll, please?
Student Representative Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Boger. Councilmember Wagner. Here. Councilmember Greenlee.
Here.
Councilmember Lindsay.
Here.
Councilmember McDaniel.
Here.
Councilmember Shoemaker.
Here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Council members Boger and Freeman have indicated that they would not be present this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we excuse council members Boger and Freeman.
There are no objections, so ordered. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, the first item that we have on the agenda is for public comments. Any members of the public that would like to comment to council? Don, come on forward.
Hello, I'm Don Steinke, 4833 Northeast 238 Avenue. That's it. Vancouver 98682. It's in the Fern Prairie area. Last spring, the governor commissioned a special committee to make recommendations for oil spill response, preparation, and prevention. Retired BNSF executives were hired as consultants. They came up with 12 recommendations, which you can now read on the Ecology website. Go to the right-hand column, and they have a 90-page document. I only read the executive summary where they had 12 recommendations. Of those 12 recommendations, only 2 of them addressed prevention, and that was they recommended that 8 inspectors be hired. That will help some. They already have 1 inspector. We saw 6 empty tank cars in one train returning from the oil terminal in Anacortes with signs on them saying, "Do not fill, remove from service until repaired." A day earlier, those trains passed through Washougal full. Ecology also recommended that the best available protections be required for all oil trains, but they didn't elaborate what those were. Here are the things that they didn't put in their recommendations. They didn't recommend that the oldest tank cars be discontinued. They didn't recommend 2-man crews. The tribes were at the table, but their recommendations were not included in the final report. They didn't address the flammable vapor cloud that can form over a parked train. In the last 2 weeks, the cities of Montesano, Elma, Edmonds have passed resolutions opposing oil terminals. Ocean City is voting tonight. The oil trains are not inevitable if we give the governor a mandate to take stronger action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to address council? John?
I'm John Lee, 444 Northwest Fremont Street in Camas. If you listen to the news today, you may have heard a story about Rite Aid and CVS refusing to accept Apple Pay as a new swipe-and-go feature for paying bills. The issue is over retailers not wanting to pay 2% or more in fees, better known as swipe fees, to credit card companies for customers who use the Apple Pay. Yes, 2 major retailers are fighting about a 2% fee. Why is this relevant to you as elected leaders in our community? Because 2 weeks ago, the CTRAN Board of Directors agreed to sign another horrible contract with TriMet. TriMet is attempting to create an electronic fare collection system. They will spend $30 million on this. CTRAN's part of it is to pay $1.7 million up front plus $46,000 per month for this system. Once implemented, CTRAN's monthly fee has an automatic inflation adjustment. CTRAN will spend $552,000 in its first year. With a 3% inflation adjustment, that would be $640,000 a year in 5 years. That same $550,000 could buy 1 brand new bus each year. There's one more relevant fact. CTRAN's passenger fares only account for 20 to 25% of their total revenues. The taxpayers make up the balance of what CTRAN spends. So when CTRAN agrees to spend money, 75% of that money or more is coming from the taxpayers, not the people who ride the bus. Will CTRAN be able to eliminate staff positions or save money in any other area as a result of this expenditure? No. The staff was asked that question at the Board of Directors meeting and said, quote, there were no identified savings for this expenditure. Looking at the $46,000 monthly expenditure another way, that's about 7% of the passenger fares that CTRAN collects. That's where today's news story comes in as a reminder. 2 private businesses are rejecting over a 2% fee that they don't want to have to pay on behalf of their customers. And yet, a public transportation agency in government has absolutely no problem signing a contract with an almost bankrupt TriMet that has a 7% fee on it for collecting passenger revenues. 3 years ago, Clark County citizens were asked to pass a 0.2 sales tax increase. We were told this project was to protect essential bus service. Well, in my mind, there's nothing essential about this e-fare system TriMet is trying to create. And if C-Trans finances have gotten so good that they can afford to give away over $500,000 a year of our money, then I think at a minimum they should rescind that sales tax increase that we approved for essential bus service. You, me, and all of our fellow citizens are sadly paying for this outrageous waste of our tax dollars when there is no known savings for it. I do, and I was hoping to personally thank Connie Jo Freeman for standing up and voting no on that resolution for that horrible contract. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, John. Any other members of the public that would like to address council? Dave?
I'd like to address the council on behalf of an absent member of our community, Harvey Olson, which I will do from the podium.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council. I'm here representing Harvey Olson from 3903 R Street in Washougal. Mr. Olson is visiting a sick friend who is suffering from stage 4 cancer. They've known each other since they were 7 years old. Mr. Olson's in his 80s, so that's quite a while. That's why he's not here tonight. But he did have important things to say. He questions, what causes railroad cars, tank cars to derail? In the reading of news reports, derailments are to be expected. Tanker and or other railroad cars, however, do not derail by themselves. There are causes. There are 6 questions that should be asked and answered for each derailment that happens. Who, where, what, when, how, and why. The why, if investigated, is seldom reported in the media. I would suggest that there are 2 basic reasons for derailments. Number 1 is human error, such as excessive speed on a curve. Number 2 is track maintenance. Railroads have been constructed the same way for over 100 years. Maintenance workers who maintain the tracks are called gandy dancers. They've been reduced in numbers during my lifetime from 6+ workers to 1 worker for a designated amount of track. And my question is, could track maintenance be the leading cause of derailments? The tracks in the tunnel under Seattle that tanker trains use have just been rebuilt to prevent derailments. I would suggest that all tracks that railroad tanker oil trains use be upgraded to the standard used in Seattle's tunnel, and that any statement made by the council on this subject in a resolution include that track maintenance could be a major cause of derailments. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Dave. Any others that would like to comment to council? Okay, not your last opportunity, but it will be coming up soon. That brings us to our consent agenda. Council, this evening you have a consent agenda that consists of 6 items. Your workshop minutes of October 13th, 2014, your council minutes of October 13, 2014, your regular accounts payable claims totaling $217,337.47, payroll claims totaling $169,752.28, Agenda Bill 76-14, setting a public hearing for property and EMS tax levies, and Agenda Bill 77-14, setting a public hearing on the 2015 budget. Council?
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that the consent agenda be approved as read.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. brings us to new business, Agenda Bill 78-14, the 2015 Community Development Block Grant Public Hearing Number 1. Trevor.
Good evening, Mayor Guard, Council. We worked through the Community Development Block Grant opportunity at the last workshop, specifically for the social service side, in accordance with the requirements the Clark County administers. Application submittal requires 2 public hearings. This is the first of 2 public hearings. This is being held to invite further comment regarding additional ideas for project sites from the public if the city is successful in securing grant funds. We also walk through multiple scenarios in regards to the community center, but this is one prong of the funding tree, if you will, in making those improvements at the community center. So the recommended action this evening is to open the public hearing.
Okay. With that, I will open the public hearing and ask any members of the public that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 78-14, public hearing in regards to Community Development Block Grant Funds for the kitchen remodel at the community center, to please step forward to the microphone. Second call for anyone wishing to speak to Agenda Bill 78-14. And this is a third and final call for any members of the public that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 78-14, an application for Community Development Block Grant Funds for the kitchen remodel at the community center. Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing. Trevor, is there anything more you would like council to do this evening with this, other than to continue this on to the second hearing?
No, that would be the recommendation from staff, is to hold the second hearing as scheduled at our regularly scheduled council session at this time.
Okay, thank you. With that, it brings us back to another opportunity for the any members of the public to come. Good evening, Marilyn.
Good evening, persons there. I was going to say ladies, gentlemen. Anyway, I'm Marilyn Tyrrell, and I live at 950 G Street. Something I wanted to bring to your attention that came as a great surprise to me was every year around Christmas, one of these stores makes some huge offering, like buying your own plane for Christmas or spending vast amounts of money on various things. This council has spent a lot of time on the marijuana issue. And the information I got the other day that surprised me a lot was that marijuana currently is selling at $60 per 2 grams. Now, I don't know much about grams and ounces and pounds, but my friend told me that comes out to $800 an ounce. So I offer to you the suggestion that the stuff is so damned expensive that nobody would ever be able to buy it anyway, and maybe the time spent considering it is just not profitable. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Anyone else that would like to address council? Steve?
On behalf of Mr. Olson, the second time?
Okay.
I don't know why this always comes up when he's gone.
Don't know.
But I promised him I would do this. Harvey Olson, 3903 R Street, Washougal. Question. What have the following elected or appointed government bodies, what do they have in common? The Supreme Court of the United States and Washington State, the elected United States and State of Washington representatives and senators, and Washougal City Council. It's having an invocation given before each meeting. Question. How many of these agencies have had members leave the meeting room prior to the invocation and then return to their seats? The answer is one, and it's not the United States Supreme Court. The answer, a few of Washougal's elected city council members. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, I have two items for you under Mayor's report. The first one is a continuation of your discussion in regards to the C-Tran composition meeting. When we last left this during the workshop, you had the three different scenarios that were put forth and had started deliberations on those items. Right now, instructions are for me as the representative of that group on November 18th to vote on, the current direction is to vote on Vancouver receiving 2 seats, Clark County receiving 2 seats, Washougal getting a seat, Camas getting a seat, Battleground and Ridgefield both getting 1 seat each, and La Center and Yakult sharing a seat. Dave?
Mr. Mayor, I ask that this be put on the agenda. I have information that the option that we selected, number 3, remove 1 seat from both Vancouver and Clark County and redistribute to the small cities, may not be possible due to opposition from Vancouver. And therefore, I would urge my colleagues to support the status quo if that's not possible. So far as I understand it, we're supporting only option 3. I would like to give you the discretion, I would like the council to give you the discretion to support the status quo if option number 3 is not viable at the meeting, if it's not supported by the other members at the meeting.
Gotcha. I was going to say any of them are certainly viable. I can make a motion whether it gets a second and or whether it's brought forward to a positive conclusion would be the question there. Now, just to remind council, at the composition board meeting, there are 10 representatives, 1 from every city within the county with the exception of Woodland. Vancouver only has 1 seat, as does Washougal, as does Camas, as does each of the others. And then all 3 county commissioners sit on that composition board. So that's the makeup of the 10 jurisdictions or the 10 votes that are at that table. Joyce?
Well, I favor the second proposal there. I still feel Vancouver has the most ridership and puts in the most money, and I just think that gives Washougal our seat, and I'm more comfortable with that one.
Anyone else? Dave?
And Joyce and I disagreed on this earlier, and I understand her point. One of her concerns is that we get adequate public transit support out here. And I support that. Not as strongly as you do, but I support it. But I don't think we're going to accomplish that with option 2. If you give Vancouver 3 seats, they are in a position to dominate the board. They have 1 city that usually votes with them. They can easily pick up another. And that gives them 5 votes out of 9. And that literally transforms C-Tran into the Vancouver Transit Agency. I would not like to see this. I think that Vancouver's interests in the public transit field are very different from ours. And I certainly wouldn't want them dictating to us what we should do in this field. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Paul?
I have a motion to introduce. Whereas the council trusts the mayor to negotiate in the best interests of our city, we only instruct the mayor to follow his best intuition in securing the interests of Washougal on the C-Tran board.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
Give me just a second. I've got a motion and a second. There's no way I could have written quick enough to write that one
And I
down.
apologize for my scratching. I didn't have it ready.
I have a motion and a second. Basically, I guess, directing the mayor to use his best discretion on behalf of
I
the
said
city of Washougal.
intuition, but discretion is
Okay,
fine.
intuition. Whereas council trusts the mayor to negotiate in the best interests of our city, we
Only instruct
only instruct the mayor or,
the mayor to follow his best intuition in securing the interests of Washougal on the C-Tran board.
council discussion. Dave?
I don't think this is a decision that should be made by any one individual. That's why they call council members counselors. We're here to counsel. And I think that this should be a council decision. The mayor will represent us. I think we should give him guidance on how he should represent us.
Other discussion? Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Hopefully, does everybody understand what the motion is? Rather than read back through this one again. Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
Motion carries. Does anyone care for a roll call vote?
Yes, please.
Roll call, Rose?
Councilmember Wagner,
No.
Councilmember Greenlee,
Aye.
Councilmember Lindsay,
Aye.
Councilmember McDaniel,
Aye.
Councilmember Shoemaker.
No?
Motion carries. Okay, that gives us the next direction. Paul, can I hang on to this for Rose's notes?
Oh, yeah.
To get that into the record.
If you want me to clean it up so it's legible, I can do that.
Sure. Rose would love that. Any other discussion in regards to the C-Tran composition? Again, that meeting is scheduled, currently that meeting is scheduled for November 18. Okay. The other item that I have for you, and I will, this is something that you don't need to take action on this evening unless you feel so disposed to. In regard to council's inquiry on having someone or someones from Burlington Northern be here to answer questions and/or give us additional information in regard to rail operations and oil trains, coal trains, any trains in general. Burlington Northern has basically answered us that they would be willing to do that, and they would be willing to do that with safety professionals that they have on their staff. We're working to get that scheduled now. Currently, this isn't a hard date, but we're talking about the evening of December 9th, which would be a Tuesday, would not be one of our regular workshop meetings. We're trying to meld schedules between ourselves, Burlington Northern, and then potentially also the auditorium at the high school, so that in case the meeting is a large one, that we can facilitate enough seating for folks. My ask of the council is for you to consider for this one meeting coming up with a hybrid agenda for the council that includes just the presentations and/or questions from council in an information gathering meeting, but that would preclude public comment at that meeting. And the reason I'm asking you to do that, one, I can see this becoming somewhat of a zoo to begin with. I don't know that you as council members, but I don't want to assume that you need 10 people or 100 people or 200 people that would be here to give you their views of what's good, bad, or otherwise, and what would be in the best interests of Washougal. I believe from the discussions we've had, it sounds like folks are starting to get most of the information that they need or have the information that they need, with the exception of the technical and factual information from Burlington Northern and/or members from Vancouver Energy or any of those that we want to have invited there. So that's my reasoning, is not to not to muzzle the public, but again, try and present this in a fashion that we can run a meeting that actually gets you the information that you need without a whole lot of other stuff in there. So, any discussion on that item? Any thoughts, any comments?
I appreciate their efforts to come and talk to us. I think it's important that we hear what they have to say, and I would consider it fact-finding, not a town hall.
I agree with Joyce. I'd rather just have it by ourselves. We've had a lot of input from the public, and I'd like to just get some information from them as well.
We would, just to clarify, this would still be a public meeting.
Right, a workshop.
Public would still be invited to attend and certainly could hear all the information that's there as well.
Right.
My only consideration is who the information is going back and forth between, so.
Go ahead with
Dave?
Dave.
I yield the floor.
Well, why would we have it at the high school and encourage a large audience if they can't participate?
In case they want to hear information from Burlington Northern as well.
Okay.
It may be overkill, I don't know. Dave?
I've forgotten who are the people that are coming from Burlington Northern?
Well, they haven't, I don't believe that they've given us exact names yet.
They're the hazmat people, right?
Hazmat is what I understand.
And
I would expect that their public relations person will be there and would attend all of these things, but would be accompanied by hazmat, their hazmat
Well,
folks.
building on what Mr. Steinke said tonight, and I think he had a very good point, hazmat is after the accident. I'd like to see included in this group somebody from the safety side, which looks at prevention.
We can certainly try. We'll ask them.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you mentioned, I may not have heard, you were thinking about inviting colleagues from other communities to come and maybe have one representative from their council sit with our council to hear the information, make a wider table, if you would, for that.
Yeah, potentially if it doesn't put Burlington Northern off. If Camas wants to be there, great. If all of their council wants to be there, that's fine. They could certainly notice the meeting as well. I wouldn't expect that we would have all 7 members and the mayor of Camas coming in and asking questions and that type of stuff, but possibly if they could funnel all of those to one other individual that could be up there. Same thing with Ridgefield. They're certainly on the lines. Woodland are on the lines. I don't want to grow this thing too big, but if Burlington Northern doesn't give any of our other neighboring smaller communities the courtesy that they're extending to us now to have another meeting, I at least want to try and offer those folks the ability to attend and get that information and or ask any pertinent questions as well. I want to make sure, though, in doing that, if Burlington Northern sees this as starting to get too big and they start backing away from that, it's just a Washougal meeting. So I don't know that Courtney's answered that question yet or not.
I'm supposed to chat with her tomorrow, so I'm trying to get as much information as I can for that conversation.
I have a question. Who is responsible for the rail maintenance?
Burlington Northern.
The innocent.
It's the railroad.
That's right.
Okay.
Paul?
I was just going to kind of fall in line here. I think this is informational, not a public debate. And so I would not like to see this turn into anything like that. I agree with you that it makes sense to invite as many of the city officials in Clark County as can reasonably be added. And I also agree with Councilmember Shoemaker that the issue is safety, preventing the accidents. If you have anything like Lac McCallick on top of our well field, we are well and truly screwed. And no amount of hazmat response is going to fix that. It has to be prevented.
Any other comments, thoughts?
So what would be helpful, actually, just to help in our planning and so we can make certain assurances to BNSF about what the context of this meeting will be, as we're working with them, inviting them to come. If the council would take action even this evening to suspend your rules in the calling of a special workshop to get information from BNSF on this issue. I think that would be helpful for me as I chat with her, and I can say this, that
Doesn't the mayor have the authority to do that?
you can call the special meeting, but your rules prescribe an agenda for all workshops, whether they're special or otherwise, or special meetings, that it includes public comment. You don't have to have public comment, but you'd have to specifically set that aside.
Can you draft something for us?
I can.
You're looking for potentially some assurance to give Courtney tomorrow that,
I want to be able to tell her tomorrow. I think you could, if I could indulge, it would be, I move to suspend the rules regarding the order of agenda for a special meeting on the BNSF issue to not include public comment.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it, and I only want to make sure that there is some opportunity for us, for other expert testimony. And let me stress, expert. That doesn't mean the general public, but for example, if there was someone from Vancouver Fire Department or Washington Ecology or the Transportation Commission who wanted to speak, I would like to keep that open. I don't want to limit it to Burlington Northern, but I want to, it really needs to be experts.
We could certainly invite those under the mayor's prerogative to be part of the presentation and not a public comment.
or available to answer questions
Right.
as directed by the council.
Yep, I think that'd be fine.
So I have a motion and a second. Both of them sounded a little bit tentative, but I've got a motion and a second. Any additional council discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstain?
Let's go for a roll call.
Councilmember Wagner,
Aye, yes.
Councilmember Greenlee,
Aye.
Councilmember Lindsay,
Aye.
Councilmember McDaniel,
Abstain?
Councilmember Shoemaker.
Nay.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so again, right now, we are in soft terms talking about Tuesday, December 9th. You can write that down. I wouldn't necessarily write it in pen, and we will confirm back to you once we've got confirmation from Burlington Northern. That's all that I've got for you this evening. Any council member comments? Paige?
I'm excited to be a part of this city and the city council, and I feel honored to be here tonight.
Excellent.
It's good to have you, and I enjoyed the Association of Washington Cities that I went to with Paul, and Brent was there as well as David. It was very informative, and hopefully I can continue with their education that they provide there online as well.
Thank you. Paul?
I'm just back from Yellowstone Park for a week, and it's nice to be at home again. On the other hand, I wish I was still in the park. The regional meeting for AWC was interesting and good. There is a RTC meeting coming up the first Tuesday of November, which is also Election Day, but the meeting is from 4 to 5:30 in the county building. That's all I have.
Well, I have books. I attended the library meeting the other night, and I checked out a library book for my council members, and you can either read it and return it, or just return it if I picked a wrong one. Dave?
Thank you.
Now, do you want to read off which ones you're giving to who?
That's Captain Captain Phillips, that's the.
Good movie, by the
Somali-
way.
I look
Yeah,
forward to
was.
that.
This is Fanny Flagg, I Still Dream of You. This is Tipper and the Gipper. And this is Sally Ride.
She's a good pick. She was my heroine coming up to the Air Force Academy, actually.
And this is Hydra, and it's just looked fun.
Okay,
Anyway,
cool, thank you.
you're welcome. I have them for the other members too, but they weren't here. and
No
so
worries.
it was
How long do
missed.
we have?
You have 2 weeks.
Okay.
And our library, it's very exciting because they are talking about the new building. They're talking location. This is going to be a wonderful thing in our community. And so I urge everybody to go in. Often check out books, give your input. We have a wonderful little, your input. We have a wonderful little library, and we should all support it.
Thank you, Joyce.
What an awesome idea.
Yes, love it.
Unfortunately, mine doesn't look like it's ever been read before. But it does have big
It has
lettering.
big print, right?
Thank you, Joyce. Jennifer?
No, I just want to welcome Paige also, and just let everyone know that I will be out for a while and not attending the Monday meeting, and probably not the following town hall, although you never know. But I have surgery tomorrow, so cross your fingers and wish me well. Thank you.
We wish you a speedy recovery. Dave?
I wanted to welcome Paige also. I wanted to wish Jennifer Godspeed and a quick return. Also wanted to report on the Washougal City Council budget meeting on October the 17th, which I chaired in Paul's absence. The minutes have been distributed, and I find nothing that I could add to the minutes, which were very comprehensive. Thank you, Rose. So I will, subject to questions, call that a report. Finally, I'd like to chide my colleagues a little bit tonight. The election of 2011 produced a very different council from what we had before. The new members took office on the 1st of January 2012, and almost from the day they started, there's been a spirit of bipartisanship on this council. I'm hoping that didn't come to an end 2 weeks ago tonight, when I tried to put a motion. In fact, I put a motion on the floor, got a second, and the motion was laid on the table by 4 members, 4 of my colleagues, and that's all it takes. I have no objection to losing a vote on a motion, but the bipartisan spirit that we've had for the last couple of years has been that we always discuss things. Paul and I, who operate from polar ends of the ideological spectrum, often second each other's motions just to hear what the other party has to say. And that didn't happen the other night. And my question to my colleagues is this the harbinger of the end of the spirit of cooperation that we've experienced? And so I have a test for that tonight. I could bring up my motion again, but I would rather have it taken off the table by one of the members who voted to table it, to lay it on the table, so that it might be discussed. The motion was, the motion that I made was to have a resolution from this council not in favor of the Home Rule Charter. And so I asked my colleagues who voted to lay that motion on the table, to have one of you take it off the table so that we might discuss it tonight. I hear a resounding silence. And so my final question to you is, how does that affect the spirit of cooperation in which we've operated for the last several years. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Motion to take the former motion off the table.
God bless you. May I second that?
Actually, yes.
I think the motion has to be made by someone that laid on the table. Second, I think you could probably second it.
Yeah, it's essentially a motion to reconsider, and she voted to lay on the table, so she can make the motion, but the second can be made by someone, by anyone.
So based on that, Mr. Mayor, are we open for discussion?
We are.
With all
On the
due respect, it's a
reconsideration.
motion to remove it from the table, which is not debatable, and it goes to a vote.
It does. Thank you. Then comes the discussion.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to reconsider the item in regards to resolutions in regard to the county charter. All those in favor of bringing the item back for discussion?
Are we,
Aye.
are we voting on the
Just to bring it back
opposition? Just to bring it back?
for discussion.
Oh, okay.
So all those in favor of bringing it back for discussion?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Oh,
Hey, no.
Motion fails.
Mr. Mayor, I also have something, it's a motion, but it's more administrative matter. The ad hoc committee on the budget presently is due to file a report at the end of October. And having now had these meetings and thought about it a little bit, it seems like the committee should operate up until the budget is passed, and that furthermore, it will take probably 2 weeks to actually write a report. So I would suggest that the report deadline be moved to the Friday following the second Monday after the budget is passed. So move.
is that second? Is that a motion?
Yes.
Yeah, second. Yeah, I second that.
Well, can you go over the, not the date, but the timing of it again, please?
The Friday after, the second Monday after the budget is passed.
So that's 2 weeks and 5 days after the budget is passed?
Say again?
That's 2 weeks and 5 days after the budget is passed?
Correct. Need that time to actually produce a report.
Gotcha. I was wondering about that time.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to extend the work of the budget committee, the council budget committee, to the Friday after the second Monday after the budget is passed. Do I have that correct? Council discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any other items for the good of the city? Okay, hearing none, we do have an executive session in regard to labor negotiations. Dave, I'm going to estimate 15 minutes at max? Could be 5. Could be 5. No action to follow after the executive session. I'm going to call it 15 just to make sure. We've missed every one, so let's hope it's only 2.
I'm not sure if, would she hang around then, or?
Unfortunately,